Video games over the years have gained an interest in making realism a big factor in their development. Not all games focus heavily on realism. In fact, many avoid it to keep their gameplay loop entertaining. Others have made it their most appealing aspect of their game. Escape from Tarkov is a first person shooter developed by a Russian developer, Battlestate Games. Escape from Tarkov takes realism as far as possible without making the gameplay loop a boring and unfun mess. But when does realism become unfun? And how does Escape from Tarkov showcase a distinct line between fun and realism? What does this tell us about realism in video games? I will try to answer these questions through my experiences with video games that try to make their gameplay loop as realistic as possible. So, what makes a game fun? Well, games can be fun for many reasons, from gameplay mechanics that require skill that can be improved on, to immersive worlds that allow players to escape reality, explore, and experiment without real world consequences. Like films, we are attracted to issues and challenges without actually experiencing them for ourselves. According to YouTuber and game developer MyGameDevPal, we love video games because we can learn, improve, and achieve without real life consequences. Video games offer an opportunity to learn at every corner, from gameplay mechanics to in game storytelling. Being able to improve your skill makes games like first person shooters and MOBAs a very popular genre in the video game industry that allows for competitive gamers to flourish. Gamers find the competitiveness so enticing that they have built professional esport leagues that garner millions of viewers around the world. Many gamers see the opportunity to get better than the person next to them as a big reason to play their favorite games. There are a portion of gamers who enjoy video games that resemble real life as closely as possible. While some gamers enjoy the artistic value and gameplay mechanics that many other games offer, some people enjoy the feeling of immersion in their video game through realism. This realistic feeling can come from the plethora of factors, such as realistic graphics and sounds to punishing mechanics that resemble real life experiences. In the article, The Enjoyment of Shooting Games Exploring the Role of Perceived Realism, Science Direct, a researcher of social sciences at the University of Antwerp in Belgium, explores the psychological complexities of the enjoyment of violent video games. They explain how realism in video games can be perceived through 6 elements: simulational realism, freedom of choice, character involvement, perceptual pervasiveness, social realism, and authenticity. To some extent, all realistic video games incorporate these elements, though some prioritize them more than others. Escape from Tarkov is an extraction shooter which is fairly new to the first person shooter genre. Essentially, you load into a map with other players with a loadout that you bring from your player inventory. This is a PvPvE, or player versus enemy referring to AI entities. If you are killed in raid, you lose any gear you brought in or found in raid. But if you manage to survive and extract the raid before the 45-minute timer ends, you're rewarded with whatever you manage to find in raid. This can range from other players' gears to valuable or invaluable items that can boost your success in your next raid. This gameplay is very unforgiving and attracts many gamers who are interested in the challenge to test their skill in Tarkov. What makes Escape from Tarkov realistic? Escape from Tarkov covers just about every element that the researchers distinguish in realistic video games. So I will break down each one, explain how it applies to the game. I will start with elements that I believe is the most prominent in making the game appealing to realistic game enthusiasts. Situational realism. Situational realism covers how accurately the game simulates real-world systems and logic through its in-game mechanics. Escape from Tarkov attempts to mimic real-world properties like things like bullet ballistics, armor levels, and medical mechanics. Healing in Tarkov is not as simple as waiting for you to generate your health. For example, if you are hit in the arm enough, it will hinder the steadiness and control of your arm. Taking shots on specific limbs requires the character to heal that limb individually. This goes for all limbs, thorax, and stomach, but not the head, as you will be killed instantly if there is nothing there to protect it, or if a bullet penetrates your helmet. If a player suffers from heavy or light bleeds, they must use the appropriate bandage or tourniquet to stop it, otherwise they'll bleed to death. The bullet mechanics found in Tarkov stand out above almost any realistic shooter game in the genre. There are many different calibers of bullets found in Escape from Tarkov, and many calibers have different ammo types. From armor-piercing to flesh-ripping ammo, Tarkov introduces a plethora of ammo types to simulate real-life counterparts with different bullet speeds, penetrative values, chances to jam firearms, flesh damage, and recoil differences. Armor types tie this mechanic together, as there are many types of armor levels ranging from 1 through 6, and different materials that have their own properties. Another aspect that simulates realism is the lack of HUD, or heads-up display. Heads-up displays usually give players important information that the player can use in their gameplay. This can vary for how much ammo the player has left, objective markers, and enemy indicators. In Escape from Tarkov, there is none of that. Besides the health and the player stance indicator, there are no indicators for how much ammo you have, but you can physically check your mag to get an estimate. There are no indicators for friendly personnel, so without communicating with your squad, there is a high chance you and your teammate can fire on each other accidentally. These are aspects that simulate realistic experiences in video games. Perceptual realism is arguably one of its most defining and immersive qualities. The developers at Battlestate Games have crafted an atmosphere that feels gritty, intense, and grounded in reality. Visually, the game features high fidelity textures, realistic lighting, and detailed environments. These aspects reflect a believable, war-torn Eastern European setting. The sound design is just as great. Gunshots are deafening and distinct depending on the weapon and environment, whether the gun was shot inside or outside. Footsteps vary based on surface type, and screams of grunts of wounded players inject raw and unsettling emotions into the players in every firefight. These elements don't just add to polish, they heighten the tension and immerse the players in a combat zone where every noise matters. It's this combination of visual and auditory detail that makes this game stand out from other shooters, and draws players into worlds that feels physically and psychologically real.
Can I kill you all, bastards?
Yeah. You're alone.
Take it to the spot.
Like, fucking.
The authenticity element covers how close the game resembles items in-game to items in real life. One example that truly showcases how Battlestate Games wants to mirror the real life is through their items and models found in-game. Escape from Tarkov allows players to fully customize every firearm found in the game. Here is a firearm I found online. This is an FN Scar H, a battle rifle that shoots in 7.62 NATO caliber. Now, here's the same gun in almost the exact configuration I attempted to mimic in Escape from Tarkov. I almost made an exact copy besides a few branding differences in the optic, and I applied the flashlight to the left side so that I can showcase it to you. It does not stop at firearms. There are many brands that are found in the game, from backpacks to clothing that you can equip to your PMC. This game pits you against real players who also have the same goal to either make profit, complete their quests, or to take joy in the intense gunfights found throughout Tarkov's combat zone. In Tarkov, nobody is your friend, and the way that the social interactions with other players is an extremely rare occurrence. This makes the social aspect of two enemies meeting in combat and fighting to the death feel raw, unpredictable, and true to the harsh nature of real-life survival scenarios. Like, extract or what?
Yeah, I'm done.
Freedom of choice. Escape from Tarkov does not offer much in the freedom of choice field. However, it does give the players the opportunity to build any gun they want in the game. From GigaChad M4A1s to meme builds, Escape from Tarkov gives players the option to customize their PMC in many different ways. Battlestate Games takes pride in their weapon customization, and I think this is the biggest aspect of freedom of choice. Here is a basic AKM rifle. I can build it to handle recoil better, focus more on ergonomics, try to make a balance between, or build it solely for aesthetics. Weapon and PMC customization is a big reason why many players take their trip to Tarkov. Many gun nerds enjoy the fact that they can play dress up with their favorite guns and use them virtually in-game and give their enemies a chance to meet their maker. Character involvement. In Escape from Tarkov, the character's involvement in the world is like a mouse in a kitchen. It is a dog-eat-dog world, as you are a lone PMC or private military contractor who was abandoned by their faction. Survival is the only thing on the character and player's mind as they are faced with every man trying to kill them and take what they have. Where does realism end in Tarkov? Escape from Tarkov does not make every aspect in the game realism focused. There are many areas in the game that have clear distinction where they draw the line on realism. For example, healing is not a realistic aspect in this game. While it does carry realistic characteristics like healing individual areas on the player's body depending on where he is shot, character health is easily replenished to its original state by simply wrapping a bandage around a limb that has taken multiple shots. Even if the limb is completely destroyed, the player can perform on-field surgery to revive the limb to its full health. While the original health points is not restored, the full capabilities are, meaning your arm is no longer being hindered by swaying. If you have a heavy or light bleed, you can lose an unlimited amount of blood if you manage to keep your health points from draining to zero. Players suffer from no fatigue from sprinting long periods of time unless the character is low on energy and hydration, which can easily be replenished by eating food and water. Inventory management is a minigame similar to Tetris and does not fully resemble how you would fit items into spaces like backpacks and containers. Progress in the game has your PMC die a lot, Player experience magically makes the PMC have the same knowledge, despite never being in the area. Not all games strive for realism. In fact, many intentionally abandon it to deliver fast-paced fun and accessible experiences. Understandably, Quake was released when realism wasn't the biggest focus in games. With hyper-fast movement, bunny-hopping jumps, and weapon pickups that glow with neon colors, Quake focuses entirely on skill-based Twitch gameplay. There's no bullet drop, no weapon sway, and certainly no reloading or realistic damage penetration. It's pure arena combat where reaction time and map control reign supreme. This detachment from realism isn't a flaw, it's a design choice that enhances the arcade-like flow and competitive energy. On the other hand of the spectrum, Call of Duty is a franchise that has historically flirted with military aesthetics. However, its core mechanics are streamlined for maximum engagement and quick feedback. Players can recover from gunshot wounds in seconds, sprint endlessly, and perform cinematic actions like slide canceling or jumping off buildings with little consequences. Kill streaks, instant respawns, and hit scan weapons mechanics further detach the game from reality. These design choices create a fast, fluid loop that's easy to pick up, which is why Call of Duty remains one of the most popular franchises in gaming history. The point is clear. Fun doesn't always need realism. In many cases, removing it opens up opportunities for more forgiving and energetic gameplay loops. In contrast to arcade shooters, some games fully lean into realism as a core philosophy in their development. Squad is a tactical military FPS that demands teamwork, communication, and precision. Unlike more casual shooters, Squad includes realistic bullet physics, limited UI, suppression effects, and an emphasis on logistics. Building bases and moving forward is the main goal in Squad. The game's slower pace makes the stakes higher, and success of your team hinges on statistic planning and clear communication between squad leaders, which mirrors real-life military operations. Squad not only provides cinematic experiences, but it also wants you to feel like a small cog in a much bigger machine. Project Zomboid is a zombie survival game that's on a 2D surface. This game similarly embraces realism, especially in how it handles player survival. The game features detailed mechanics for injury treatment, hunger, illness, and psychological stakes like boredom or depression and panic attacks. Every decision, whether to eat canned food now or save it when the power goes out, fight now or flee, all has long-term consequences, as when you die, you lose everything you've managed to accumulate, whether that be loot or skills. Unlike more casual zombie games, Project Zomboid places you in a lonely, slow-burning apocalypse where survival depends more on your foresight rather than your reflexes. It's not a glamorously looking game, and graphics are very similar to older generation consoles. This game managed to capture a gritty realism that deeply resonates with fans of survival and zombie simulations. Realism in video games is not a universal goal. It's a design choice that depends on the experience developers want to deliver. Games like Quake and Call of Duty ignore realism in favor of speed, accessibility, and excitement, while titles like Squad, Project Zomboid, and Escape from Tarkov embrace it to immerse players in high-stakes, grounded experiences. What Tarkov does especially well is ride the line between frustration and immersion. It sacrifices convenience for authenticity, but not to the point of making the game unplayable. So what does this tell us about realism in video games? Balance is key, and when realism is applied thoughtfully, can make games more intense, meaningful, and rewarding. But too much realism, without fun, can make a game feel more of like a chore than a challenge. The best games are the ones that understand their audience and commit to delivering a consistent and engaging experience.
Thank you.